Good morning, everyone. I bet y'all thought that was accidental. I just really wanted to walk across the stage. Welcome again, everyone. I am filling in for Mike this morning. And so as Mike and I were talking, I told him, I said, what about a sermon about what a family minister is? Because when I was in Mississippi and I was telling folks that I was coming up here to be the family minister, the first question, and often the only question I got, was what is that? And so I know some of you probably have the same question. And so we're going to walk through that this morning, or at least my interpretation of what it is. And then tonight we're going to talk about some of the programs and some of the ideas that we're already doing and I want to enhance as part of the family ministry. And so I want to begin by talking about the job description. Now y'all notice that I brought a bunch of papers up here. And I was talking to Orrin last night, and he said, I bet you preach without notes. And I said, I hope you don't bet much money that I preach without notes. These, however, are not notes. These are the scriptures and the slides, because there's a really good chance I won't be able to read the slides with my vision. And so as I was looking at the job description when the elders approached me for this position, I was reading this and I was thinking, wow, that's a really cool job. And so today I wanted to begin by talking about the job description and then talk about the scriptural foundation that I believe is for that job description. And then we'll talk a little bit about that as well. And so the first part, let me start by telling you, I've written a lot of job descriptions in my life. And I don't know if the elders did it this way, but I think most people do it this way. When you write a job description, you think, this is what I really want. And this is what I want next. And this is what I want next. And then you go there, and then you put like 7 or 8 bullets down at the bottom, and then that you don't really care about, and then you put and other duties as described. And I have found that the other duties as described is really the things you should ask more questions about. So I'm going to walk through the top 3 that the elders talked about in their job description, and that's going to be the basis of our sermon. And so the first thing that they had written was that they want the family minister to coordinate planned family and youth activities that reflect biblical objectives that agree with the overall mission and vision of the Richmond Church of Christ. And so I believe that that is a very important part of this ministry, and that I will work with the families and all people in the families, from the youngest child to the oldest grandparent in the family. And I think that our idea of a family, we also often consider a nuclear family, but it's also an extended family. And a lot of times, I was talking to Orrin Neroff last night. I didn't realize this until last night. Marge basically was baptized first. And then she brought Orrin to Bible study. And a lot of times, that's the way it works. A child can go to vacation Bible school, and they get excited, and they start attending the congregation. And then they drag their parent, because the parent often don't want to go, but they go. And then they hear the lessons, and they say, wow, this is something that I'm really interested in. And so every part of the family is important, I believe, in a family ministry. The family minister will work with the families and youth of the Richmond Church of Christ under the direction of elders to ensure there's a strong foundation of biblical knowledge modeled for Christian living through experiences and action within our families with young people, engage families, and develop relationships that foster parental involvement. That strong foundation is something that I believe is essential. So many times, the only things kids hear about often is at church is in Bible study. And that's only 2 hours a week. And so 2 hours a week is nothing when it comes to understanding and learning. Any teacher in here will tell you that in a 1-hour class, you should spend 3 hours preparing for that 1-hour class. And so the idea is that we will build that foundation through working with the folks in their homes. And we're going to talk about strategies to do that. I'm not going to read all of these because I got bored reading them, so I know that you got bored having me read these to you. So I'll just talk about the most important parts from each one. The first one is a team of parents, youth, and adult volunteers. Many of you as children had an adult that wasn't kin to you that you thought, this person is really cool. And I really like spending time with that person. Those of you that spend any time with youth, you know that they are entertaining. I spend a lot of time with scouts. we built a TV station, or built a TV frame. It's a big TV frame, it's about 48 inches, and the opening is clear. And so we take that frame with us on campouts, and we put the frame there, and then the adults tie it to their little canopy, and we watch what we call BSA TV. Watching those kids is hilarious. And it's the cheapest entertainment that you can get. If you're an adult and you haven't spent much time with children, I would encourage you, this would be a great opportunity to reach out and spend time with children, because you can be an inspiration. You can be a model for them. The family minister will seek to provide an environment that facilitates spiritual growth, outreach, and evangelism. All of us can grow spiritually. I wish that I knew the scriptures as well as many of the members here. I know I can grow spiritually. I believe all of us can grow spiritually. And then the idea is the third bullet there, the family minister will plan, communicate, direct all activities of the family member effort in conjunction with assistance of several different deacons that they mentioned there, several different programs. And so my job is not to take over those programs. My job is to assist the people that are currently doing those programs. And that's what I envision will be happening in that regard. And then the third part of the job description, work as part of the ministry team at Richmond, which includes the minister to our seniors, and our missionary. And so the idea is that I would do a lot of different things with the other parts of the ministry team, support them and assist them in whatever way they want. Now, I know what Mike wants. Mike wants Dave to do whatever Mike don't want to do. But that's not what the elders have specified. And so occasionally, I'm sure Mike and I will have a conversation, and Mike say, you need to do this. And I'll say, the elders told me I didn't need to do this. And then Mike will have to do it. And so I know that's Mike's vision. But the elders have a different vision. We're going to work together. We're going to cooperate. Jack and I had lunch one day within the last 2 weeks, and we were talking about ways that we can collaborate together. I went and visited some of the seniors last week, and it was inspiring to do that. So I know that that's going to benefit me, and I hope that it will benefit the other ministers as well. Another job that I have is to foster open communication with the parents. And so I thought about doing like the president of MSU does, but this is on a live video, so I'm not going to do it. I was going to say, this is my cell phone number, and then give you my cell phone number and let you call me whenever you have a need. Well, I'm not going to do that. But if you are in realm, it's in realm. And if you're not in realm, which I know a bunch of you ain't, find me and I'll be happy to give you my cell phone number. Call me whenever there's a way that I can assist you. So that is the way I look at that one. Follow up and contact family members and youth who are not attending regularly. I plan to follow up and contact families and youth who are attending regularly as well. And so I have a spreadsheet, those of you that are spreadsheet folks, that has 201 rows. I have 20 of those rows highlighted. So I've visited 20 of those rows. Those are real people with names, but I keep them as rows. And so all of you at some point, if Dave has his way, will get a visit from Dave or eat lunch with Dave. You can look at me and tell I'm a big fan of eating. And so if you want to eat with me, I'll be happy to do that with you as well. And then advise the elders of any special problems, issues, or conflicts with families, parents, and youth. One of the things that the elders here are wonderful, wonderful men, wonderful shepherds. I have nothing bad to say about them. But there's no way they can know about everything unless we tell them. And so I believe that one of the jobs that I would serve as a family minister is to facilitate communication between people and the elders. Because the elders are busy people. And sometimes, I don't know if y'all got in trouble in school, but I know people that did. And when they go visit the elders, it's like standing in line to visit the principal. The elders don't want it to be that way, but I know that that's the way a lot of people think. And so I am one of those people that's sitting in the principal's office with you. I'm waiting for my discussion with the principal, just like you are. And so you can use me as a resource to communicate with the elders in whatever way that you need to. And so that's the way that I envision the job description that they have given me. And so let's talk about how the scriptural foundation for these elements. The first point, work with families of youth to ensure a strong foundation of Bible knowledge. I believe that comes from 2 Timothy 1:13 and 14, the scripture that we've already read. Follow the pattern of sound words that you've heard from me. This is Paul where he's writing to Timothy, and he's saying, that pattern that I gave you, that's the sound words that you need to follow. We as Christians want to raise our children as strong Christians. And one of the ways that we can do that is help them grow spiritually by following the pattern. And so the idea is that I will help you in that endeavor as parents. Greg doesn't like this because this is what Greg asked me what the mission on our, I forgot what it's called, but the thing where Greg and Mike, the debater, preacher, whatever it is, y'all know what I'm talking about. So Greg, Mike, and I were sitting there last Sunday night, and he asked what I thought the function of the church or the family was. And I said, train up a child in the way they should go, as Proverbs 22:6 says. Well, Greg didn't like that. Then Mike said it a little bit different, used a New Testament citation. Greg was all about that. But the idea is, in my opinion, is that the Bible tells us that we are to train up a child in the way they should go. And the way they should go is the way the Bible tells them to go. And so I believe that working with family is an important part that God has in his plan for us to teach our children to be members as well. And then Proverbs 24, verses 3-5 and 10-12 says, by wisdom a house is built, and by understanding it is established. By knowledge the rooms are filled with all precious and pleasant riches. A wise man is full of strength, and a man of knowledge enhances his might. There's a famous saying that says, wisdom comes from experience. Experience comes from mistakes. I believe that's partly true, but it's not always true. Because there are people in this congregation that have shared their wisdom with me when I was here. And they were saying, Dave, this is going to happen with your kids. And this is what I did. That didn't work out. You ought to try something else. And sometimes they would give me that something else. I believe that there's lots of resources in this congregation that are phenomenal parents and have raised phenomenal children. They can share that wisdom, and I hope to be part of sharing that wisdom with families as to how they can stay strong in the Lord. And then verses 10-12, if you faint in the day of adversity, your strength is small. Rescue those who will be taken away to death. Hold back those who are stumbling to the slaughter. If you say, behold, we did not know this, does not he who weighs the heart perceive it? Ignorance is not an excuse. And so we as families have a command to teach our children, to raise our children in God's family. And so ignorance won't be an excuse on the day of judgment. We have to do better in raising our children. The second part of that job description is, at least the way I interpret it, was team building. The idea of team building comes from Ecclesiastes 4, verses 9-12. Where Solomon writes, two are better than one because they have a good reward for their toil. For if they fall, one will lift up his fellow, but woe to him who is alone when he falls and has not another to lift him up. Again, if two lie together, they keep warm, but how can one keep warm alone? And though a man might prevail against one who's alone, two will withstand him. A threefold cord is not quickly broken. Many of you have served in the military. You know that when you go to fight wars, you're not fighting for your country. You're fighting for your buddies. And that's the idea of us as Christians. Alone, we're not nearly as strong as if we have two. If we have three or more, we're even stronger. And so as Christians, as we build these family units, as we strengthen these family units, we can do this as teams. And as a team, we're going to be stronger than we would be alone. Hebrews 10:24-25, and let us consider how to stir up one another to love and good works, not neglecting to meet together as is the habit of some, but encouraging one another, and all the more as you see the day drawing near. One of the things that we get by being here together corporately is edification. We get strength from seeing other people here. There are people here that struggle to get here, and I'm so happy to see them get here because it inspires me when I have a bum knee and have to limp around. That's no excuse not to go to the church, not to meet with the church. And so those sorts of things are what we all need, and team building, and I believe that we can work on that as a team as well. The second part we've already talked about a little bit, and Mark 16:15 was, Tim read it this morning in class. Our responsibility is to go and convert others. That's what God wants us to do. And so the way that we do that is through spiritual growth. I know that some people don't feel confident in conducting an individual Bible study. If you know someone that needs a Bible study or you think is interested in a Bible study, then I'm part of that help for you. I still don't feel entirely comfortable conducting an individual Bible study every time, particularly with a stranger, but I will certainly give it my best shot. And most of the time, it goes well. And so we can spread the word. And I, as a family minister, hope to be able to help spread the word outside of this pulpit, mostly, in fact. And then Hebrews 5:12 through 14 talks about growth, spiritual growth, and the idea that we must move from milk to meat. There are people in every congregation that have been Christians for 25 years, and they don't even know the plan of salvation in scriptures to back it up. If that's the case, then they need to grow. They need to go from milk to meat. I was talking with John Mathis as we were riding around his farm, half of it in the rain. And John was talking about how that there's so many people here that have a very good understanding of the scripture, and he's absolutely right about that. But all of us can grow. And so one of the jobs I believe, of the family minister is to help with that growth. The third part is outreach. I am so impressed with the things that this congregation does. I've attended other congregations this size, and I will tell you that y'all are much busier than a lot of those other congregations. And there's a lot of outreach that goes on. I've been reading your bulletin since I started attending here in 2003 full-time, and then I continued reading it when I left. And I'm always inspired by the works, the missions that are done here. And I believe that my job is to assist in those efforts. We already talked about Mark 16:15 and 16. Matthew 23, for I was hungry, you gave me food. I was thirsty, you gave me drink. I was a stranger and you welcomed me. I was naked and you clothed me. I was sick and you visited me. I was in prison and you came to me. Then the righteous will answer him saying, Lord, when did we see you hungry and feed you, or thirsty and give you drink? And when did we see you a stranger and welcome you, or naked and clothe you? And when did we see you sick or in prison and visit you? And the king will answer them, truly I say to you, as you did it to one of the least of my brothers, you did it to me. You know what I've noticed in the 10, 11 years that I've been gone from Richmond? Richmond has gone down in terms of the number of homelessness, not down in number, has digressed in terms of the number of homeless, the number of poor that I see just driving around, the ways that the city is deteriorating. That is noticeable to me because I was gone for 11 years. Y'all may not notice it because you've been here the whole time. And so the works that we do to help the community, I think are phenomenal and sorely needed. And I want to help in those regards as well. And then fourthly, youth ministry and education. This is for Greg. Proverbs 22:6, train up a child in the way he should go. Even when he was old, he will not depart from it. You already heard that once, but I wanted to reiterate it again because I think that's so important in the mission of a family minister. Ecclesiastes 12:1, remember also your Creator in the days of your youth before the evil days come. You're never too young to help God. And we need to emphasize that to our children. Some of the most inspirational moments I've had as a Christian are working with kids and seeing what they do for God. And so I hope to be able to help the deacons that are running those areas to work with their children and give them ways to contribute and help in their efforts to serve God. Finally, the last part, follow up with families to communicate their needs to elders and other members. In Acts 20:28, Luke writes, "Pay careful attention to yourselves and to all the flock in which the Holy Spirit has made you overseers to care for the church of God, which he obtained with his own blood." Luke is writing about the charge to elders, charge to leaders. But I believe that that's part of my charge as well. Pay careful attention to the flock and assist the flock in whatever way that I can. And so, as I'm going to talk about tonight, when I call you and I say, and most of the time you don't answer because, oh, by the way, it's a 662 area code. You probably don't know anybody else from Mississippi. So if you see the 662 area code, that's likely me. So if you don't answer, at least let it roll to voicemail. And then on your voicemail, because I still leave voicemails, I will say that this is David May, and I want to meet with you. I'd love to meet with you or something along that lines. Please call me back. And I'm still waiting for some of you to call me back. But it will happen. I'm patient. As Jack said, I got Jack confused with thick. As Jack said, one of the good things about me is I'm thick-skinned, and I truly am. And some of you would add, and thick-headed. But I know that I'm thick-skinned, and sometimes I'm persistent. And so I'll just continue, and hopefully we will get together at some point. And this is not a visit from the principal or the school counselor or anybody like that. This is for me to get to know you. And we'll talk more about that tonight because I don't know. I was counting the photographs out there. I know 94 of those photographs. I don't know, or at least when I started, I didn't know 61 of those photographs. So in 11 years that I was gone, 61 new photographs showed up on that board. And I would love to get to know the 61 and be reacquainted with the 94. And so my hope is that over the next year, I'll visit every one of you in some shape, form, or fashion and get to know you better. Because if I know you and you know me, then we can work better together. You don't work as well with strangers as you work with people you know and love. And so that's the goal of that, get to know the flock. And one of the things that Jesus shows us in John 3 and John 4 is some of the most powerful lessons that we will learn from one another about Christ are not from this pulpit. They're not from a Bible class. They're from individual discussions where somebody is talking about God. John and I were talking on Monday about the idea of one of the ways that we get to know each other is a project where we're working together and doing things on that project. And I wholeheartedly agree that that's a great way to get to know one another. Some of the most powerful biblical messages I've ever had were riding with somebody going somewhere. And we got to talking about God and Christ. Not from the pulpit. I've heard a lot of powerful sermons. But those individual conversations that you have with one another, that you have hopefully with me, will inspire you and give you ideas about ways to better yourself as a Christian and inspire me in ways to better myself as a Christian. Because at the end of the day, the purpose of the family ministry is to help every single member of this congregation, no matter what their age, in their Christian walk. I hope to serve as a resource. I hope to serve as a mentor. I hope to serve as a friend. Some of you won't like me. That's okay. I hope you love me. But you don't have to like me because I know that if you ever really get bored, type in David May Rate My Professor and go and read my comments about Rate My Professor. There is no middle ground on those comments. Now, don't do it now. Wait till after the service. But there is no middle ground on those comments. People that like me really like me. People that don't like me really don't like me. And that's okay. We don't have to like each other, but we have to love each other. And so I want to be a resource, mentor, friend, and also a conduit to the deacons and the elders. One of the things that I've always thought, like when I was putting together that list of 200 people in a spreadsheet, I thought if you'd have told me this was what I was going to be doing in grad school, I'd have quit grad school and gone back to plumbing or roofing. And then when I got here, and Onisha and Phil are all excited about this thing called REM, I try to avoid all technology, including databases. And so Phil and Onisha have kind of drugged me into this realm thing. And luckily, and I want to publicly thank Chuck and Onisha for letting me live in their basement. Luckily, that may be why they do this. Yesterday, I had a problem, and Onisha says, it might be better if you just come up here. And so I go up to their kitchen table, and Onisha's trying to teach me how to do something that she knows how to do, and probably anybody else in this congregation would know how to do. But Realm is a great tool that I hope to be able to use to help the deacons, because I know I was a deacon, and I had 3 kids, 3 small kids, and a job. Actually, I had 2 jobs, and I wouldn't have had time to go into Realm and say, who signed up to be a volunteer? I do have that kind of time, or I will take that kind of time. And so I will be able to help the deacons, as families volunteer to do things, coordinate with that as well. And that'll help the elders and the ministers as well. I hope to assist the deacons with their communication and coordination of areas of work. Notice that says assist, not lead. You guys have been chosen as deacons because the elders have recognized you have a talent and they want you to use that talent. And I'm not going to get in that way. I am only here to help. And then finally, my overall goal is to develop and strengthen the next generation of God's soldiers in their fight against sin. Every one of us needs strengthening in our fight against sin. And so the idea is that I can help you in whatever way I can to be strengthened in that fight against sin. Because the end goal is that every one of us that are here together this morning will be together in heaven for eternity. And if we can do that, I think the elders have invested a tremendous resource in doing that. And so this morning, if you haven't believed that Christ is the Son of God, you've heard the word. If you haven't repented from your sins, if you haven't confessed that Christ is the Son of God and been baptized for remission of sins, then you're not going to be in heaven with us. And this morning would be a great morning to take that step. We have a baptistry here behind me. We have water in it, I think. And if we don't, we can put water in it. And we would love to baptize you this morning if you're willing to do so. Many of us here this morning have been baptized. But sometimes we struggle in our walk. Sometimes we get to a point where we need the prayers of the congregation. If that's your situation this morning, we'll be happy to have the shepherds pray for you if you'll let us know as we stand and sing.